Okay, guys. um, Welcome. I'm going to kind of go over what the adjustments kind of do in the game, kind of how they make the car feel. And this will lead into the video I'm going to do tomorrow, showing kind of me working on a setup and then kind of what adjustments I make when I'm doing that. So, let's go ahead and get into it. So that's not what was supposed to happen there. Let's go back to full screen. Whoops. Let's go right into just your tire pressures and stagger numbers here. Tire pressure is obviously how much air you have in the tire. And just for a long race, I don't like this much of a split. The more split you have in the tires when they get up to pressure, it sometimes loosens your car, and also it's better to start your tires out. I kind of like anywhere between 18 and 21 at bigger tracks, but usually I'll run like an 18, 19, 19, 20, kind of like this. Spread on the car, just to kind of show you. That just passed this failed tech, so we'll just move these back up just for the time being. But yeah, I like my tire splits to be 1 to 2 pounds between the left sides and the right sides, but I do like 1 pound, probably more. And anywhere between 18 to 21 pounds is about where I kind of like my tires, unless you're in qualifying, and then throw the split number out the window. You'll probably want like 21, 24, 24, 27 pounds of air pressure in your tires. And yeah. Now for, usually it's not a whole lot, you run them even going into the race, but if you do make adjustments, lowering the left rear tire pressure is going to loosen the car. Raising the right rear tire pressure is going to loosen the car. Raising the left rear tire pressure is going to tighten the car, and lowering the right rear tire pressure is going to tighten the car. Also, raising the right front tire pressure is going to tighten the car, but lowering it, I guess it should loosen it, but it's not a huge difference. And I usually don't mess around with a whole lot of left front. I usually keep that kind of constant. So yeah. Also, you kind of want to, like, when you're checking your tire pressures and you're building the setup, we'll talk about this more tomorrow, run like 10 laps, and then you look at the temperatures on your right front and the temperatures on your right rear. I usually like my right front to be a little bit warmer than my right rear after 10 laps, and then they usually even out on the long run. The more even you can get them at the end of the race, the better. So the more even tire wear means it's using each tire the same. I mean, each setup's going to be a little bit different, but yeah. Right front stagger, this is going to be the actual size of the tire. I feel like more stagger in the right front balances out the car. It makes it turn a little bit better. But if you're loose in, actually sometimes you can add a little bit of stagger in. It makes it drive with the front tires a little more than the rear. So that's something I do. And then the right rear stagger is just going to help the car turn all around, but it will get you pretty loose. So anywhere in now, I usually like to run my stagger like a 1.5 on smaller tracks like South Boston. Things like that. You're usually going to run a little bit more rear than you are front stagger, but I do run a lot more front stagger on tracks like Oxford. I run a lot of front stagger on Oxford. Maybe sometimes Langley. So we'll go ahead and get into these. The ballast is the shifting of the weight forward or backward. I usually run mine in between 0 and 32. I don't really use it to adjust the car a lot with, unless I'm on a road course, but I probably won't talk about that a lot. And then toe in or out. The more toe out you have, the better like turn in you've got. I usually keep this number anywhere between -2 to a 2. So that's kind of where I keep that. -2 is usually a good number. -1, that's where I'll put it at. It kind of helps the car turn in a little bit. Then steering ratio, I usually run that negative or 10 to 1. This is pretty much a personal preference for anybody. This is just at bigger tracks run at like 14 to 1. At smaller tracks run at 10. Some people run at 8. I'm not a big fan of that. So anywhere from 10 to or 8 to 14 to 1. In the Cup cars, they run them like 16 to 1 at like Talladega and stuff like that. Steering offset is just like, if you crank this to the right, you're going to be turning, or crank this to the positive numbers, you're going to be turning like right down the straightaways a little bit. But it's going to keep you from turning so far to the left in the corners, and that's really useful at a track like South Boston or Oxford. Again, Lanier, I'll crank that up to like 8 degrees. Brake balance bar, the lower you go on the brake balance bar, the farther the brakes go to the rear of the car. So you're going to have more brake pressure at the rear than the front. More front bias is going to stable out your car, but it's going to tighten it up. And less front brake pressure, more rear brake pressure, that's going to loosen you up getting in the low corner. It's going to make it easier to trail brake, so that way you can brake, just be easy on the brakes, but you can hold it longer through the corner. But it's going to kind of get your car a little loose in. It's going to heat up your rear tires. So usually try to keep it around in here. I know some people like to run it like way up here for the whole race, and they don't have to worry with it. But during the race, if you feel your car getting loose and getting unstable into the corners, you can crank that up as the race. You can map a button in your options to that. Sway bar, the lower the number, you're going to turn better in the center, but it's going to transfer more weight onto the right sides. So you're going to watch your temperatures over here. And also cause your car to bottom out sometimes. But it's going to help your car turn through the center of corners and into the corner a lot. And so that way, the lower the number, the better you turn into the corner. With the sway bar arm length, the higher the number, the better. And for these, I like to run them on a smaller track from like 1.5 to 1.75, and bigger tracks, say like USA is kind of bigger. Richmond, Iowa, I run these at a higher number, like up in here. So that's just a thing, and it's kind of the same way, like 13 to 15 is kind of a good number for the arm length. I don't really use any of these, couldn't actually tell you what they do. I think they have to do with your just preload. I think this is a way to adjust your cross weight. I guess I have used it a little bit, but honestly you never really need to. And then your attachment, don't really worry about that. And then tape, always run this at 25 or 50 depending on the track. I would advise people on what tape to run, but I'm not going to say anything because that can get you in trouble. Sometimes 50 tape does not work, and always use the highest tape you can without blowing it up. And always use 100 or 75 in qualifying depending on what you're doing. So I'll go back up here and talk about the cross weight. Nose weight's not too important unless you're on a road course. A lot of people use it a lot, but I personally do not. Your cross weight, the higher the cross weight, it's going to be like the tighter your car is, and the lower the cross weight, the looser your car is. But kind of like, I just use it as a reference point for most of the time. For the late model, I like to run it at anywhere between 49 to 51 on bigger tracks as Iowa or Richmond, New Hampshire. And then for smaller tracks, anywhere between 51 to 54 or 50 to 54. It just kind of, I use it as a tool to kind of see where the car is going to go in the long run. If you have less cross weight, it tends to get looser the more you run it. It's going to feel real good right off the bat, and then 15 laps down the road when your right rear is cooking, you're going to regret it. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that. Now I'll go down here to the tire adjustments and stuff, and we'll go through them. Spring perch offset is just your ride heights. With ride heights at smaller tracks, especially, I like to have that right front dipping down. That's how it is on the baseline here. I kind of like what they've done to the baseline. They've done whoever did the baseline this time actually did a better job on it than what they have been in the past. But still, you can obviously get more out of the car than what the baseline is. So the right front dipping towards the ground is kind of what I do. But pretty much when it comes to adjusting the ride heights, with a late model, it doesn't really matter if your ride heights are way off the ground for downforce. Lowering the left rear is going to be like the same as the spring rate and stuff. That's going to loosen your car with a lower ride height on there because it's going to lower the cross weight. So I'll kind of let you see that. It's going to lower that cross weight down. And then on the right rear, raising the right rear is going to lower the cross weight, and lowering the right rear is going to raise the cross weight. So that's a good way to remember which one loosens you and which one tightens you. Lowering the right front, that will actually it doesn't have a huge effect on the cross weight. I can't really show you, but lowering that right front mainly, it doesn't has a huge difference, but it's going to kind of change the orientation of the rear tires. And mainly I just use the right front height to just choose what I'm doing off the track. I think raising the left front loosens the car, but I also don't use that to adjust a whole lot. Mainly when it comes to ride height adjustments, it's going to be in the rear end, or raising them or lowering them to get the car closer to the track in the corners. So with the car in the corners, you're going to try to get that nose down to the track, but not on the track, so you don't want to be bottoming out. Then spring rates, left front. Honestly, for the front tires, how I use the spring rates is just get the car off the track, but keep them as low as possible so you have the highest mechanical grip. So as soon as you stop bottoming out, stop raising the spring rate. Bump stiffness is how hard the car is to go down. Like, it's resist the car going down, and rebound is pressure coming back up. Honestly, like, front tires, it doesn't really matter. I usually just throw like a little bit in. I use the bump a lot in the front to keep the car up off the ground just with the spring rate. So that way I may be able to run 25 pounds, a little bit less than the spring rate. But honestly, not a whole lot. Cambers, the leaning of the tire. I usually like, it's honestly, it's a double-edged sword. It's great, but it's gonna hurt your tire wear. So anywhere between like 6.5 to 4.5. Anywhere between 4.5 to 2.5 on the right front, or negative on the right front, and then positive on the left front. Caster, more caster is going to kind of loosen you up in the corner, but it's not a huge difference. Definitely good to use though. So these aren't bad numbers. In between, like, I have run setups that had like the max on the left front, especially in Martinsville, to help you turn in. But honestly, it's not a huge thing. Go ahead and work on the right or the rear tires. Like, I went with the spring perch offset, just raising or lowering the ride heights. Lowering the spring rate on the left rear, that's going to loosen the car a lot and help you roll the center a lot better. So if you're tight in the center, maybe drop that spring rate down the left rear. It's going to help your car just loosen up from center off. Also, raising the right rear, that's mainly going to help your car off the corner on throttle. So if you're tight on throttle, giving that car some spring rate, going up on the spring rate is going to help you. And if you're loose on throttle, dropping that spring rate. Honestly, if I'm loose on throttle, what I usually do is soften both sides of the rear end. So I'll drop both sides by 25. It's going to help the turn to the center, and it's going to tighten you up off the corner a little bit. Now, we go to the bump stiffness in the rear end. I don't use the bump a whole lot in the rear end, unless it's the left front or left rear. Rebound in the right rear is going to loosen you up a little bit. It's not a huge adjustment. It's a really good adjustment to counteract the spring rate. Say you're just barely too loose coming off the corner, just drop it a couple of clicks. It's mainly just, these are just for your car's almost there, but it's not quite there kind of adjustments. Now, when it comes to the left rear, this is where it gets kind of funny for me, is something I like a lot about the left rear. Tight tracks Martinsville. I'm going to use that as an example here. I start with a 0.16. That's going to loosen the car up in the center a lot. It's going to make your car get ready to get on the throttle sooner, but it's going to loosen you a little bit. That's a great adjustment. And I'll start there, and I'll just work the way toward like more even numbers, and that's just going to tighten the car in the center. It's going to tighten the radius of how it turns, and that's kind of a good place to start there. Now, at the track bars, the left side loosens you up into the corner. Right side, with the higher the number, loosens you up into the corner. On the right side, the higher the number loosens you up off the corner, like on throttle a little bit. It's going to help that car turn on throttle. So that's just, those are quick adjustments. They make a good difference. But once you get your setup kind of where you want it, and you're just making like swings and what's adjusting, I usually don't touch them very much, so I'll leave them there. The truck arm mounts, bottom, I usually like to have the top middle is a good setup for me, or middle bottom is how I like them. Bottom is going to help you get looser into the corner, so the car just won't turn in, and it gets off the corner fine. If you're at middle, just go to middle bottom, and the same for the other way. Just go top middle, if it gets through the corner, fine. And what I like to use is I like to have a car that comes off the corner pretty low so I can get it under people. Even if it hurts the speed, it's going to help you pass cars, especially if you're an official and you're trying to pass lapped cars. Take that to top. It's going to really help you like follow the yellow line up off the corner. It works really well at New Smyrna and USA. So and Irwindale too. So that's just a thing. Truck arm preload. Technically, the higher the number, the tighter your car is going to be. The lower the number, the looser your car is going to be. Honestly, just try to keep it at 0, as close to 0 as I can get it. I don't fool around with it a lot. Sometimes I do, but fuel official anywhere between 8 to 12 gallons. Bristol, I think, uses 12, but most tracks are going to use 8 to 9. I don't know. I haven't done a whole lot of official recently, but 7 gallons. Some tracks you can get away with it, but it really doesn't matter. A gallon's not gonna make a huge difference. And then your gear ratio is just it's gonna be different for each track. Just changing the RPMs of the car. For the late model, at a track like South Boston, I like to be on the first few laps red lighting barely at the end of the straightaways. And then as the race goes on, you'll stop red lighting, and that's kind of how I like it that way. And then that's pretty much what you do with all tracks. You don't like to be on the red light for very long in the late model. Super late model is different, but if this does well and people like this, I'll do some videos for the super late model too. And that'll be all, guys. Thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions, just tell me. Anything I could do different, tell me. But yeah, thank you guys, and that'll be all.